When I think of recent politicians and their attempt to square these circles, to both make sure that there is greater inclusion and a welcome and a place for immigrants in a society while not abandoning the core national myths to which these immigrants are actually going to become a part of. I think of Obama, it's a depressing lesson.
Right.
Here is a man who himself represents, just physically represents a fusion of different parts of America, even though he's not really African American in any strictly ADOS sense. He's obviously he creates a narrative of America that both includes its intrepid whiteness, and as it were, and its ballsiness and its adventurousness and its triumphs and its achievements and its progress. But he then also tells a story of greater and greater inclusion in that project, so that we're not a perfect union, but we're getting there. He told a rather moving story about how America can unite around its common themes and fold in different experiences over time. And he was, and people hated him because he was black. And at least it's clearly, if you were, and I was one of these people, if you were a conservative that liked stable government, responsible moderation. Obama was essentially a black man who was a WASP. He was probably the waspiest president since George H.W. Bush, and probably waspy. His sense of dignity, his golfing, all this stuff is incredibly, and yet for a huge section of the Republican base, they despised him. And the only way I can really put my head around that is there is a residual 30% of this country that really is profoundly racist, and thought even this guy, this almost model person, was bad because of that, and then turned around and voted for Trump, which is an absolute repudiation of any idea of this slowly maturing and enfolding national narrative.
Well, I would say two things. I agree that there certainly is a residual group of racists, but I think it's important to think through another possibility. Imagine if the Republican candidate was black, right? How much of this is simply partisanship? Because obviously Obama did better amongst white voters, really, than Clinton did. So it's not as though that it affected the vote extremely negatively in that regard, So I think it's certainly there are residual racists, but I agree with you that Obama, not only in doing what you said, but also he talked about his links, his parents and the GI Bill. So he sort of made these connections to mainstream white America as well as to black America.
And he was Midwestern.
He
was Midwestern to his bones, and people recognized that. I think they felt it in their bones. This is and it made extreme care not to include working class white people in his coalition. Made it specific in a way that Hillary never did, and in a way that Biden kind of gestured at, but really wasn't that committed to. It's hard to tell in that campaign because it was barely happened. It was all on the airwaves. But certainly now Biden seems to be recast as the person that's in favor of mass immigration and equity.
Yeah. Well, I think Obama was the things he said on immigration, his policies on immigration. There's no way that could happen now.
No, in fact, if you defend those policies, Obama is in contemporary leftist discourse a white supremacist. That is what Obama was. An unbelievably vicious white supremacist who deported all these people because he believed naively that his job as president was to enforce the immigration laws. And that's why I get this. How many times I say, what happened to you? What happened to you? And I'm like, nothing happened to me. I still have roughly the same politics I had under Obama. What's happened to you?
Right.
How have you been seized by this cult of neo-racism?